Hi, this is Katie with Next Shift, and today we're going to be doing a quick rundown of the goaltending basics in puck. We won't cover any super advanced topics here, just what you need to get started making saves and feeling comfortable in the crease. As a quick disclaimer, my game obviously looks a little bit different from vanilla puck. I recommend most people to download Toaster's Reskin Loader. It helps you personalize your game a little bit more, and I like having a more minimalistic look to my game to help me focus on what's important. And speaking of what's important, I wanted to quickly, before we go onto the ice, just go over some of the settings that I have. Most importantly, I want to make sure that you turn off network smoothing just in general. Sensitivity UI stuff we can get into later once we're in the game. But first, I want to quickly go through my controls. I'm just going to quickly say the binds and kind of the purpose behind them. A good portion of them are default, like my movement keys, my pad extend, and control for the butterfly. I do change my free look to alt because it's just a feature I don't use a lot. Puck cam is on space, which I use considerably more. My stop and break keys on my side mouse button because I use it quite a bit. Jump is also a side mouse button. I use a decent amount. Scroll wheel is default, and most importantly, I would say, is the left mouse button and right mouse button dash, which gives you a lot more reaction time if you set them to tap inputs. A lot of this is personal preference, and I encourage you to try out your own different things to see what works for you. This is just what I do. Alright, so hopping into practice mode, you'll see that I use about 120 FOV. It's nice to be able to see the bottom of my pads. I use my peripheral vision a lot. I wouldn't recommend going any higher, but also not too much lower because you want to be able to keep track of the play. And then for my sensitivity, I have 0.17 global. I changed my vertical to 0.8. I'm at 800 DPI. I'm on the lower end of sensitivity for goalies, so if you're different from me, it should probably be on the higher end. And then last is to make sure your minimap is nice and big. And now we'll get into movement, which is arguably the most important part of playing goalie. You have your WASD, which is good for snaking around and preserving stamina, and then you have going into butterfly and a lot of dashing options from there, as well as rotating, spinning around. And those dashes will be the bread and butter of your goalie movement. And with dashes, we'll start with the basic one, which is just clicking it once and going to the side, nothing else. You'll travel about half the distance of the net.
Oh my
Nice,
god.
good save.
Next up is arguably the most important goalie tech, which is the crane stance, Z-slide, slide cancel. It has a bunch of different names, but essentially all you're doing is going to butterfly, you're dashing, then you're letting go, and then repressing your crouch button. And that will keep you sliding. It will also keep your 5-hole shut, and it is a great tool for mobility. You can also break or stand up so that you don't slide too far and get out of position. On the other hand, you can also chain them to cover a lot more ground than you typically could.
Save.
The last movement tool that I'll show you for now is standing up and combining them with dashes. You can stand up out of a dash to cancel it early. You can also stand up and then dash and then stand up right away. There's other things that you can try out and explore, but just an overall very helpful tool to control the distance of your dash as well as getting high enough to stop some shots by standing up.
Mission. Good stuff.
Along with movement comes positioning, and a nice rule of thumb for positioning is drawing a straight line between the puck and the center of your goal line, and your goal is to essentially keep your body on that very same line, just so that the most of your body is covering that angle from the puck. This isn't always the case, especially if there's a pass involved, but it's just a nice base guideline to get you started. I would also like to point out that even if your body's in the perfect position, you will sometimes still need to make a dash to make a save, so always be ready. And the last main tool that you have is going to be your stick work. This includes kind of passive and active stick movement. Passive is just kind of how you have it during the game. A lot of people starting out like to keep it low and inside like this, kind of like a real-life goalie would. But in reality, you want to have your stick out a little bit more engaged. You can also use it to help yourself track the play, which is what I do a lot of the time. You have so much reach as goalie that it only makes sense to capitalize on it. And then active stick work will come in handy in situations where the opponents are trying to shoot or pass. Clearing rebounds and passing to your teammates also falls into this category. You have a lot of range that goes past where your body is, and you can also disrupt the play pretty easily if you know what you're doing. This is definitely one of the more difficult skills to pick up as goalie, but it's just something that will come with time and practice. And admittedly, this is just the tip of the iceberg for goalie mechanics and gameplay. There's so much more for you to learn, like hugging the post and how far you should be in your crease, etc., which I will try and get a video on in the future, at least some things, but the more you get the basics down and when they start to kind of become instinctual, it becomes a lot easier to pick up the more advanced mechanics, and it just takes, like I said, time and practice. And if you let it be fun, it really is fun learning this stuff. I wish you luck developing your own playstyle. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.